What it do? What's happening? More commentary today, and y'all gonna have to bear with me. This video quite long. I might not play the whole thing. I just wanna touch on something that you might not be aware of, but I have my personal thoughts about this video. As you can see, the title is "Walking on All Fours." This video was a clip presented by 60 Minutes Australia. 60 Minutes Australia comes on a network called the 9 channel in Australia. I tried to find as far as when this was aired, and I can't find it anywhere on their website. I went to their Twitter, and on their Twitter page, let me see. On their Twitter page, as you can see here, you go up and down, it's a bunch of nonsense stories. It's a bunch of tabloid type stories. I used to watch 60 Minutes America growing up, and they would, hit you with the murder mysteries and stuff like that now and again, but pretty often they had pretty solid reporting. The Australian version doesn't seem to be that in-depth. Let's see. Single-sex schools are on the way out. The co-education lobby wants to make them history within 20 years. Let's see, what else is Australia talking about? Trump. Stormy Daniels. That's what, October 8th. Porn stars. Transgendered rugby player Hannah Mouncey. Yeah, I ain't gonna do nothing about that today. We might hit on that later on a separate episode, but this is the source of this story. 60 Minutes. This is their 40th year. You can see the symbology in this picture all the way through. These people are definitely official. This ain't no Blue House gang. This is straight up. Who is this lady though? The lady in white. Anywho, let's get into it. Hold on, let me make sure we got some good volume. Alright, y'all. This is Walking on All Fours, and I'm going to chime in here and there, so.
You're about to see something truly astounding. A discovery that's caused an absolute sensation. One that could have untold significance for every one of us. And not only that, it's a totally engrossing mystery story too. You're about to meet a family that shouldn't exist, a family like no other. They could just be the missing link between man and ape.
Now you have to see how they preface the story. They show you the evolution of man thing right here in the back with the two people walking on all fours like some bear. She's like, these people shouldn't even exist. But as the story goes, you will see why these people exist. By the way, for the people who watch Walking Dead, this past week's episode, there was a little clip they had symbolically where they had this same monkey to man thing going on, that motif, but at the end where man was at was a zombie stuck to the wall. So it was like man evolved from monkey to zombie. It was a pretty interesting clip. Let go.
The Holy Grail scientists have sought for generations. They're living, breathing men and women, but they walk on all fours, just as we did 4 million years ago. And until this film was shot, they were hidden away, unseen by the outside world.
Oh, word?
A remote village in Turkey. Here...
Now, mind you, this says October 2nd, 2018, already has 3.6 million views. They are in a remote village in Turkey.
Hidden from the world lives an extraordinary family. A family whose...
Now, if you notice, the first two people in this village they show are walking like it's no problem.
very existence could rewrite the evolution
But not this one.
I was really fascinated. Here are humans doing things that they're not meant to be doing.
For the past year, their existence has been known to just a handful of experts who have been sworn to secrecy. When I heard of it myself, I was intrigued, but nothing prepared me for the reality.
Now, what's the big secret? Then somebody might dig a little deeper and see why these people are really in this condition.
Now, finally, the secret can be revealed.
Oh, my mama, you ain't never seen that in your life.
The immediate response I had was that I couldn't believe my eyes. I had never expected that, even under the most extraordinary scientific fantasy, that modern human beings could return to an animal state.
Return to an animal
In
state.
scientific terms, it was the equivalent of finding living, breathing fossils. Human beings who had never made the evolutionary leap of standing upright. The quest to find out why took a team of scientists
You see the lady in the back walking normal?
on an amazing journey and raised profound questions about what it is to be human.
The thing which marks us off from the rest of the animal world is the fact that we're the species which walks on two legs and holds our heads high in the air.
It's what defines us as human beings.
In many ways, yes, of course, there's language and all sorts of other things too, but it's terribly important to our sense of ourselves as being different from others in the animal kingdom. These people cross that boundary.
Professor Nick Humphrey is an evolutionary psychologist. He first heard of the family through a medical paper produced by Turkish scientists.
It looked as if we really did have something rather like a throwback in evolution, a turning back of the evolutionary clock. And the Turkish professor who invited us there.
Now, they started the story telling us that this was a secret being held. But this dude's been studying these people for decades. I promise you he has. This has been his life's work.
That's the way he thought about it. And in fact, others in the scientific community took up that line and said, yes, here, for all the world, is a genetic problem which has undone of the last 3 million years of evolution and returned them to a primitive stage.
It sounded like the anthropological find of the millennium, a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that scientists dream of. If the family proved to be true quadrupeds, walking on all fours, they may provide the elusive missing link between man and ape.
Now, in a minute, once they meet the family, we don't know the real reason why these people were fucked up like this. In this remote village in Turkey.
Humphrey set out for Turkey with a scientific team to record his findings.
This is a very exciting moment for us. We don't know quite what we're going to expect from whether we'll really see quadrupedal humans. I don't know.
Now, mind you, that dude had a picture in his office of those people walking down the beach and shit. And he's talking about he don't know what to expect. This lady's standing up doing laundry. Okay, so we know there are at least other people who wear clothes in this neighborhood. They got a tractor, somebody's driving. They got a little fencing, somebody's building.
Never been reported in scientific literature.
And
he says it's never been reported, even though he found out about it through a Turkish scientist paper. Talking out the side of your neck just to act like you done fucking discovered some shit. Seems to be a pattern.
Rajit Ulis and his wife have an astounding 18 children. 12 were born healthy, but 6 had a unique disability.
Now, those are 3 of his kids. Rajit and his wife have 18 kids. Now, one thing we do know about Eastern Europe is a lot of those people, where they live right now, ain't necessarily where they are from. For hundreds of years, peoples within these lands along the Caucasus Mountain Range, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, the dude who just won the fight this weekend, Nurmagomedov, Habib, he's Pakistani now, but he tells people he's Russian. But he's really from Chechnya. Bosnia, Sarajevo, all these places. These are places that have been carpet bombed, biologically, chemically. Man, these people here have went through the ringer, and they still end up in these pockets of land along the Eastern Europe border of Russia, in Turkey, Hungary, and all. Is Hungary even a place still? It might be called something else now. They called it Hungary back in the day. But all these people, these mixed people, Asiatic, Russian, European, melanated people that have all interblended and intermingled, ended up in this spot. This man had 18 kids in the middle of nowhere from this woman. A couple of them look cool, but something happened along the way.
This is Gulen. He staggers as if he's drunk, but he's not. There's something wrong with his balance, but he's still on 2 feet, not 4.
I've met guys that walk like that. Now what happened
Then,
to these people?
one by one, the other children appear. There are 4 girls and 1 young man. Hussein has walked like this for 28 years.
Very revealing for anthropologists, people who study early human evolution, because what these children have done is to reinvent or rediscover a form of locomotion which very likely does correspond pretty closely to the way our ancestors walked.
The affected children are aged between 18 and 34. They all still live at home, cared for by their brothers and sisters.
Now mind you, what happened when she sat down? If you notice these people, even though they walk on all 4s, they barely communicate with them. We don't know how they can speak. We don't know their level of intelligence compared to even the people walking on both feet in this ravished ass village.
And their parents, now in their 60s.
So far as we knew, no other case like the one in front of our eyes ever been described before. There were no reports in the scientific literature of adult human beings walking on all 4s. And so we realized we had a major phenomenon in front of us to explain from a scientific point of view, but also, of course, a major tragic human story.
And here's their explanation.
Fossils tell us we probably first became bipeds around 4 million years ago. Since then, we have become beautifully adapted for moving on 2 feet. So why, for the first time in eons, are human beings again walking on 4?
You tell
There
me.
was a certain amount of speed that
This guy, Hussein, can outrun me, yes.
Hussein can travel for kilometers like this. The skin on the heels of his hands is as thickened as it is on his feet.
He got padding now.
It's an action like
His
that.
hand evolved
No, they don't push
like
on them
a
at all.
padding of a
They
dog
just-
or a
they-
bear.
You actually just do the lift on the heel.
Now,
very
hold up.
soft.
Why
flat
would I
surface.
watch him try to demonstrate what I could just look at this man do?
Push on them at all. They
For kilometers like this.
He's
The
not
skin
doing
on the heels
what
of
that
his
man said. I
hands
see his
is
fingers
as thickened
moving,
as it is on his feet. It's an action like that.
but he's gonna make it
No, they
seem
don't
like
push on them at all. They
no,
actually just
not
do
at
the
all.
lift on the heel.
You're making it seem like the man's not using his hand for the balance.
For
His hands and
kilometers like
feet
this.
fully hit the
The
ground.
skin on the
His
heels of
fingers
his
aren't up.
hands is as thickened as it is on
This
his
wasn't a learned behavior. He came out already knowing this is how I get around. You learn to crawl from a baby. He went from his knees and hands to hands and feet and stayed there and adapted. Now, as strange as this may seem, this honestly looks like something that can happen to a human being depending on their circumstance.
his feet.
And I don't think it's the first or the last
It's
time it's
an
happened.
action like that, is it?
No, they don't push on them at all.
He does push on it. I just looked. His
actually
wrist is
do the
bent,
lift
you
on
idiot.
the heel. On a very soft or flat surface, they will put their fingers down, but on a rough surface,
Saying
they
it
don't
like it's
let
rare.
Their fingers touch the ground.
No. I see his whole hand hitting everything. He was on the street, now he's in the grass. They adapted.
The Turkish scientists
That
who
one was
first
like a
discovered
man.
them believed the
Second
children
one back
had
there.
evolved. But Professor Humphrey suspects the problem is more likely genetic.
No
The
shit.
parents are second cousins and could have passed on.
And that gets to my point. There is no surprise. If you're in a war-ravaged situation and you see your brother, your uncle, your father, and everyone killed in war, and you end up in the mountains some damn where, and it's you, 13 of your neighbors, and 12 of your cousins, what's gonna happen? This is simply an issue of incest. Simply. I don't give a damn how far along the line you go. Go find one of your damn cousins and decide to have 18 babies and see what happened. It could be somebody that's so far removed, but if somebody along the line came out of somebody that's related to you and shares the same blood and genetic DNA code, man, some clashing is gonna happen during the process of getting that fetus right to where it's supposed to be, man. I can't even speak. This is crazy. This is crazy, and I don't really know what to call it. From the beginning, when I first saw this video and I saw what was going on, I'm like, damn, that's fucked up. This little dude was, having babies with his sister or something. But, so happened to be a cousin. Okay, I understand. And that's what happens. Now, do we knock this man? They're not even going to go further into the people's situation as far as really how they ended up, where they ended up, and how it came to be. This man had 18 children from this woman.
Faulty gene onto some, but not all of their children.
It's very bad luck that the children have inherited from both parents the same recessive genetic mutation.
Basic neurological tests confirm there is something wrong with their brains, but that still doesn't explain why they walk like animals. It's a scientific puzzle, but for the children themselves, it's meant a life of misery.
Are we animals? Homo
There's
sapiens?
hostility
I think they
towards
walk
the
like
family
humans
in the
with a
village.
genetic issue.
The local kids
Their
talk
deficiency is
the
real.
same.
And then watch my man. You see how they cut the video? I hate when they do that. But I wanted them to show him fully stand. It is not like they don't have the ability to stand. But they have learned. If I'm going to get from A to B, this is how I'm doing it. This is the simple way we get around.
They are being beaten up by the kids of the village, and they are not being accepted.
Also,
into
trip
social
off their
circle.
legs. Even when he stood, his knees don't bend.
They are, yeah.
Now, what if, as a
Yeah.
child, these people were born with fused knees? And when they tried to walk, it just didn't work. We looked at the dude earlier in the video who was getting around with that young wobble. And he bouncing around, trying to make things happen for himself. And they're like, no, he's not drunk. So he almost ended up fully like them. But he got enough bend to get around. I think it's just an issue of they were born with a genetic situation where their knees got fused, their hips got fused, something didn't fully develop. And when they were young, they tried to get around, it didn't work, and that's what happened. That's just my theory, because you can see
team
they can
takes the
stand.
family to a local private hospital for brain scans.
And I see the little bend, it's something in the hip. They're like,
The
man, you
results are
trying to
examined
send me
back
to the
in by
future.
anatomist Roger Keynes.
This is Hussein's brain.
There is something very striking
They don't
which
act
hits
like
you immediately. You
animals.
see it. It's very clear that in the middle of the cerebellum here, what's called the vermis, it's shrunk.
The brain damage is the same in all the affected children.
Do we have Safia's brain?
They can communicate. They can speak to each other. They're nowhere near animals, and they will continue throughout this thing to call these people animals.
Yeah. That's this one here.
They have races, 5Ks, 4Ks, fundraisers all over the place every year. Jerry Lewis' whole deal for years was getting money for kids with issues like this. And they're not doing this research to fund and assist them to getting better and living out a better quality of life. They just want to figure out how these people damn near animals. Because we know that we half dog, everything else, not us, but some of the cave folk half dog and everything else with the little tail. That's another story.
Same again. very
Okay,
striking.
so it's brain
But the
damage.
shrunken cerebellum is not enough to explain why the family can't walk upright.
Yes, it is.
In a case
Yes, it
reported
is.
last
Let's see. Let's just do a quick Google search. What does the cerebellum control in the brain? Let's see. Take a look. Cerebellum functions. Fine movement coordination, balance and equilibrium, muscle tone, sense of body position. Now, this is how I teach my children how to learn, because they live in an era where they're able to do this. They're able to take the words that come out of somebody's mouth and cross-reference them immediately. As a child in school, I read a lot. All I did was read. Watch the news and read. So when a grown person, an authority of me, said something that I knew was not completely true and contrasting to what information I knew, I challenged it. And I became mouthy. I became somebody they had to reprimand. But I got straight A's. And we do that to children growing up when they question things. And this lady tells us, but shock to the cerebellum could not explain why these people move like animals. It absolutely does, because the cerebellum controls fine movement, balance and equilibrium, muscle tone, and sense of body position. The media, the news, the information, and the way it's structured and presented to us does not ever go above an 8th grade level. They do it in a way to where they frame it and tell you something to where you take it on face value, pass it along, and keep it moving. And what things like this also do is paint people who are underserved in the world and continue to make them seem like they are out of place and not needed. These people have value in this world. They have a long history and can tell us a lot of things about how people move and function and how we can get along to get along if we listen to them. But instead, they want to press the issue for 15 minutes on their national syndicated television show, telling people that these people are animals. And all the research we've done will never explain why they must be the missing link in evolution, that we must push this idea that people come from monkey and everything else, instead of looking at it for what it is, genetic defect. No different than Down syndrome, autism, and everything else that they want to make of importance.
last year in Italy, a young man presented without any cerebellum, but he could still walk.
It doesn't in itself.
Fine movement, coordination, balance and equilibrium, muscle tone, sense of body position. So let's show one person and just say he's missing the whole back of his brain.
Account for their walking on foot.
Just to
A
prove
young
our
man
point.
presented without any cerebellum, but he could
But
still
we know nothing about him. We know nothing
doesn't
about
in
what y'all
itself.
have done to get him to the point where he can at least walk. Because what he did state was everybody in that family that had that condition had the cerebellum shock. Did they test the dude that was walking at the beginning of the video that looked like this guy with the messed up balance and equilibrium? Did they show him at the beginning and say that at the very beginning? Did they test him and come up with the same conclusion? Because if they did, they might have found out he had the same shock or might be missing his whole damn cerebellum.
any cerebellum, but he could still walk.
It doesn't in itself account for their walking on four legs, because other children who have damaged cerebellum, even children who have no cerebellum, can still walk upright.
So again, the experts
saw that.
turn
They got
to
one in their
genetics.
family.
In Berlin, German scientists think the answer lies in the family's DNA.
I think this is very novel because it
That's
has
what
never been
genetics
described
is.
before
No
that people
shit.
are
You think-
able to walk on their
Hey,
foot.
what is
So
that?
usually, I think
The hell is that thing? Bruh.
The opinion was that this is not really possible, and let alone that it's genetic.
This dude
Professor
half a
Stefan
cave.
Wundless
He's a
believes the Ulas
Geico
family's
caveman
blood
himself.
may hold one of the greatest secrets of science, the gene for walking erect, the very essence of what makes us human.
It's the exciting part of it. We can, by describing this family, actually show that
essence.
humans can walk on their fours, and then this can actually be inherited as a genetic trait, and that is very novel and very unusual.
The Germans have already published claims of a breakthrough, upsetting many in the scientific community.
I think it's an extraordinary speculation, very unlikely to be true.
You don't accept that's part of the equation here?
No, I mean, everything we know about evolution suggests that no single gene will have been responsible. So therefore, damage to a single gene can't throw you back from being bipedal to being quadrupedal. There have to have been other things at work here.
There's more...
And that's the issue, I think, with science. When they're presented with a conclusion, your human element kicks in and says, because that conclusion doesn't match with what my belief system is, it must not be true. It gotta be something else. But what if it's not? What if it just is what the hell it is? Genetics and DNA. Oh no, it has to be something else because we're talking about evolution. No one single gene defect can cause something of that nature. That's an evolved situation. No. And I think that's enough because what they're going to go into from this point is the whole missing link. Look at their bones compared to a monkey's bones. Look how a monkey moves compared to how they move. It gets into a lot of straight bullshit, bruh. So I just wanted to present that to y'all. Another thing you probably haven't come across on your timeline, your feed, or Reddit, wherever you go. I don't know where you go. But Jones commentary, and I'm still here.